G'day, and welcome back to another episode of the Best of the Rest podcast with Stix and Freeza. How are you, Freeza?
Good, Stix. How are you, mate?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. Pretty good. Had a race to watch this weekend, so can't complain.
Yeah, it definitely fills in a bit more of the weekend, doesn't it?
Yeah, something to look forward to. Bit better than football, especially with our team.
Yeah, no. Don't like that one.
Anyway, should we jump into gloss over some practice results?
Yeah, so I guess it wasn't too much of an eventful practice sessions, really. I mean, FP1, you got Sargent crashing out, doing his best.
It's too early to get into him.
Stix is itching. You should see him. He's fidgeting. He wants to give him some, but he wants to hold it.
It's the first minute of the podcast after I settled down a little bit.
FP2 was washed out mostly.
That was disappointing.
Yeah. I was kind of keen, and like you may have seen when they interviewed Jack Doohan, that they were just getting a mixture. It wasn't either wet or dry, so they couldn't really get out and test. So
I did hear a couple of people mention that. They either want it to be downpouring so they can get consistent data, or be dry. When it's a bit of both, they're just chewing up tyres and not really getting any data. So yeah. I guess it makes sense.
So yeah, most of the teams really staying in their pits for that, but in FP3s, just
standard
as expected.
All right, so qualifying then, straight into the important stuff.
The important stuff. So we'll do a 20-1 quali result. 20th, you had Joe, 19 Logan, Sargent, 18th Magnussen, 17th Gasly, 16th Stroll, 15th Ocon, 14th Albon, 13th Bottas, 12th Hulkenberg, 11th Ricciardo, 10th Tsunoda, 9th Russell, 8th Leclerc, 7th Hamilton, 6th Piastri, 5th Alonso, 4th Sainz, 3rd Norris, 2nd Perez, and 1st Max Verstappen.
Well, pretty standard at the top end of the table.
Yeah, so I guess looking at the mid-table there, you got Tsunoda getting into Q3, Ricciardo just missing out but snagging that 11th position anyway.
Massive effort for Tsunoda, home turf, all that pressure to deliver.
Yeah, setting himself up beautifully for the race there. So
one of the form drivers of the comp so far. Like, he's had a great start to the season.
Yeah, and talking about kind of teammate or team differences, you've got in the Astons, you got Lance Stroll putting it, his best he could do was P16, and you got Alonso putting it P5.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing for Stroll. I don't know if you saw Stroll's interview after quali, and he said he basically said that he couldn't get any pace. It wasn't anything to do with the car, but he just didn't have any pace in himself today. I think it was something along those lines, which at least he...
Weird thing to say, isn't it, though?
At least he sort of fessed up and didn't try and blame the car. It was more just he couldn't get any pace out of it.
Yeah, I guess.
He had a shocker, but it's not as big of a deal when your dad owns the company, is it? Not
really. The other major kind of team difference, you had Sauber. You got Joe putting it 20th and Bottas putting it 13th. And then the one that's rinse and repeat for most weeks, Williams.
Yeah.
You got Sargent 19th and you got Albon 14th. Other than that, I think most teammates were within a couple of positions.
The two things that I took away from quali, outside of Tsunoda being quite a standout performer, Red Bull quite close for P1 and 2. Yeah. Although it's a standard setup, Verstappen, Perez, but Perez actually pushed Verstappen, which is actually good to see.
Yeah, and in Perez's final run there, it was looking like he was almost going to pit Verstappen, but couldn't quite get there.
And Mercedes, surprisingly poor.
Yeah, they're looking pretty off.
That Lewis Hamilton move, looking quite good.
Yeah, it looks like he might have got a bit of a fortune cookie and read his future before we knew it.
He's abandoned ship at the right time. Right, I guess that wraps everything up from Sector 1. We have a short break, jump back in for Sector 2, the race review.
We'll get into our
Rightio, race review time. Freeza, do you want to start off with a 20-1 of the race results?
certainly. So, 20-1 race result. You got Albon and Ricciardo who took themselves out on lap 1. So there's a DNF for both of them. Joe retired on lap 14 with a gearbox issue. So then we got 17-1 of actual finishes. 17th you got Sargent, 16th Gasly, 15th Ocon, 14th Bottas, 13th Magnussen, 12th Stroll, 11th Hulkenberg, 10th Tsunoda, 9th Hamilton, 8th Piastri, 7th Russell, 6th Alonso, 5th Norris, 4th Leclerc. In our podium, we got 3rd Sainz, 2nd Perez, and 1st Max Verstappen.
Again, pretty standard
Somewhat standard
podium.
there.
Well, the first two positions, you sort of expect it.
Yeah, it's starting to be a bit of a common theme as well. You got the two Red Bulls generally up the top, two Ferraris pretty well not far behind, and then it's been a bit of a mixture, McLarens and Mercs and Astons for the next few positions, and potentially if someone like a Stroll like this weekend doesn't pull one out as expected, then it's that 10th position that's opening up for the best of the rest. So who can jump in there and snag a point?
Once again, Tsunoda delivers.
He does, for the home crowd.
That was a standout for me. Yeah, it's one thing for him to put it in the top 10 for qualifying, but to deliver points on the home soil with that crowd hyped up, huge.
Oh, and didn't they love it?
They absolutely loved it, and I think he loved it even more. He was pretty stoked at the end of the race.
Yeah, just see him fist pumping and got the photo with the team with the board at P10.
It's brilliant. But on the other side of the garage, old Ricciardo, that incident with Albon, second, third corner?
Yep.
Oh, just a racing incident at the end of the day, but that just builds more and more pressure on Ricciardo after having like quite a decent qualifying session.
Yep.
Only just got pipped by Tsunoda to miss out on Q3. So he's looking pretty good considering he had one practice session, but then very unlucky. So once again, the critics are going to be there. The pressure's going to build. And being Red Bull, anything could happen. He really needs to start to show his worth.
Yeah, and when he was on the sidelines there in the pit watching the screens, it showed Lawson, merely a couple of feet behind him, just staring down at him, and pretty good visual representation on what could be coming. You got literally Lawson breathing down his neck. So,
well, apparently on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days, Lawson, Ricciardo sacked. Yeah, all trending after that crash. So the pressure builds, and teams like to say they don't listen to this sort of stuff, but I think it does start to creep in.
Yeah, you can't fully block it out. There's always going to be one way or another who'll creep in. Any interviews you do, that's going to be the first question they'll ask.
Another standout from the race was Carlos Sainz and his consistency. Again, delivering for Ferrari.
Yeah.
And quite a big call, but sort of making Ferrari look a little silly, getting rid of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so far, he's one of the form drivers of the year.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a little bit hard to properly place drivers in terms of form because of the different performances in the vehicles, but he hasn't put a foot wrong. And again, on the podium, without a seat next year. Got a question to throw out of the blue, but how long do you reckon it's going to be until he will announce where he's going to drive next year? Will it be a summer break, or can it come earlier?
Well, there's a few rumours around Toto and Mercedes, potentially looking into him, and Toto wanting to wait as long as possible to make a decision to see what's happening with Kimi, see if he's ripening up, or if he's going to go with someone like a Signs, and Signs is going to want to seal his deal sooner rather than later. So
Don't think they can afford to wait.
yeah, I've almost got a feeling that someone like a Mercedes could potentially miss out because he'll want to get it signed, and like my kind of prediction, I could kind of see him going to a Red Bull, and they're pretty ruthless. So if he tees up a few meetings there, he could be getting that signed, sealed, and delivered.
Well, I think it's a little weird for Mercedes because they can have their cake and eat it too in terms of Antonelli to Williams,
Yep.
and Sainz. Like, there's no way Antonelli's going to come to F1 next year and outperform Sainz off the bat.
No.
Potentially in the future, he could be anything, maybe. But yeah, Sainz is driving amazingly. And yeah, I'm sure that every team's probably talking to him, but it's going to be that first domino to fall, whether it's Sainz or whether Mercedes announce who their driver's going to be for next year. And then that's when everyone will start to fall in line. Deals will be signed, and it's gonna heat up.
Yeah, definitely.
What else stood out to you from the race, Freeza?
So obviously they had to do a standing start for their restart after the red flag. So that was lap 3 by the time they'd ended with their safety car and come back out and done their formation lap as such. So then Hulkenberg was in 10th, sitting at that restart. Absolutely bogged it down. I think you said he went into anti-stall.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And ended up 17th, which with the 2 drivers already out, he only had one person behind him. I think it might have been Zhou Guanyu. So he's only second to last from sitting 10th. So I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity there from the Hulk.
Yeah, a very rough start. He got swallowed up, something fierce. So what else stood out to me? I'd say Red Bull, very strong. Really didn't look like anyone was going to challenge them at all. Verstappen looked like he had Perez covered quite comfortably.
Yep.
But probably the most interesting part and one of the better drives of the day was Leclerc and the strategy that Ferrari actually managed to pull off.
Yeah. And they were, saying how strong the undercut was, like the whole race. And Norris came in early for those, those first front runners. I think it was 3rd to 4th or something like that, 3rd to 5th. So he came in first, and then Sainz and Perez came in shortly after, and Norris actually got out quite a few seconds ahead and ahead of Perez as well. So then they had to chase him down, but it still seemed that Ferrari, they left Leclerc out for a lot longer, and he either tyre managed or just their general tyre strategy worked really well. I think obviously you got to give credit to Leclerc for that, but
somehow he got that medium tyre to not only last a significant amount of time, but have good pace as well. Yeah. I don't know where that come from.
Yeah.
But yeah, hats off to him. It was crazy.
No, a very good drive from Leclerc there, and Sainz as well. Definitely good drive and fantastic driver. So
yeah,
hopefully see him in a top team and not a waste of talent fall by the wayside.
It's something that'll be interesting to follow as the season goes on. But Sargent, who had a decent race, he had an incident towards the end of the race where he went off, but managed to recover it to his credit. But outside of that was the major things that sort of went on in the race from my end.
What was that? To his credit.
Yeah, well, he wasn't a DNF.
Come out of Stix's mouth?
Mate, I'm going to go on him later. You wait. Just you wait. I have to give him a little bit of a...
Hold fire.
Well done, you didn't get it stuck in the sand. But anything else stand out to you from the race that you wanted to mention before we move on?
Something weird that I saw.
Go on.
See, I think I had it noted as lap 25. There was a multiple car pit stop around midfield, a little bit lower.
Right.
And Stroll got released from the pits and just drove side by side with another car. I don't think it was Sonoda. I think it was someone behind him. And just drove side by side, and then they just exited the pits pretty much side by side. And it's like, how there's no further action. Like, they deemed that as fine. Like, it wasn't an unsafe release because he didn't cause a collision or have to have avoiding action or anything like that. But I don't see how that fits into any rules. You'd think it has to be single file. It was just weird. I didn't see how that could be allowed.
I did hear them mention that. I didn't realise that's what actually went on. But yeah, that is weird. Yeah. Really weird.
So I didn't see what happened when it actually got like right to the pit exit, because by that time, like, the camera's still pretty panned back.
You would think Stroll would have to yield, or else he would receive a penalty, because otherwise you're setting a precedent that you can release from the pits and just sit next to somebody and basically have a drag race.
So I think someone in the end kind of just hit the brakes and let him in. But yeah, I just don't see how you can just travel pretty much the whole pit lane just side by side.
I don't like that personally.
You'd think you'd have, like, I don't know, either a distance or like 3 seconds or something to, maybe you do come out side by side, but all right, jostle that, brake, whatever you need to do and get in, and that's it. Like, don't just travel side by side with no intent to get in.
That is a weird one. We should look into that and see what the actual technical rules are behind that, because, from my point of view, you shouldn't be able to drive next to someone, and if whoever's out first should hold that position, and whoever's next to them should yield. Otherwise it does take away a little bit of that pit stop strategy to a certain degree of timing things right, and there should be penalties, but there was nothing for that as far as I'm aware.
No, nothing that I saw. I'm pretty sure I heard actually during the race that they had no further action, so I don't think it was a decision made afterwards. But yeah, I just couldn't really understand that one. I'm sure there's some rule deep down in the archives of the rule book that... Yeah. But just, I don't know, I didn't like it.
No, neither. That doesn't really... doesn't stand out as good sportsmanship or a proper racing etiquette, really.
No.
Rightio, well, that'll wrap up Sector 2 of the pod. We'll jump back in with Sector 3 and have some spicier comments on the race and a few opinion pieces to run over.
Oh, I can't wait.
So look forward to that. And we're back. Righto, so a few topics for the last sector of the pod. And we're going to start off with Driver of the Day. Who have you got, Freeza?
Mine's a pretty straightforward one. I think most of the population would probably agree with me on this one. A driver that went from P8 to P4, exceptional strategy, Charles Leclerc.
Boom. Any honourable mentions?
Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah.
I know he started 10th, finished 10th, but still a great result there. As Stix tries to work out how headphones work.
Yeah, a couple of technical difficulties, but we're right. We're back. Look, I've had exact same setup. Yuki, fantastic performance, and Charles' strategy, moi.
Chef's kiss.
Medium tyre. Don't know how he did it. Great pace. Made it last forever. Don't know, some wizardry going on there, but well done. Best moments. Fire away.
My best moment was the Japanese costumes.
Yeah,
I don't know, costumes probably isn't the right word, but I don't know what the right word is. But
that was fantastic.
Like their hats with F1 cars. There was a couple of like Ferrari horse heads on top of their hats. Like,
I didn't see those.
Didn't you? Oh,
that's gnarly.
There was all kinds of stuff. There was a guy who was saying about, whether he's Max Verstappen or Fernando Alonso fan, and he's got all I think it starts with him with Aston Martin, and then he whips off this cover on his hat and undoes his jacket, and then all of a sudden he's in like full Red Bull kit. Yeah, it was just
Covering all bases.
yeah. What else was there? I think they looked like backpacks that were like the tires. Like you had a soft compound tire.
Yeah. I did see those. They were sick.
Yeah, and they like had that was like their backpack.
They were dope.
They're just so creative. Costume's probably not the right word, but accessories, I guess.
Yeah. Almost like homemade merch.
Yeah.
Like the cars built into the hats were so detailed. Some of them were insane.
Yeah.
I also loved the kids who were holding up the sign saying like, teacher.
To the teacher.
I'm enjoying myself at Formula One.
Yeah.
Or that, did you see that chick who was holding up a sign in the crowd saying, I think it was during qualifying, and it was like, Charles, I called in sick so that I could meet you today.
Yeah, right. I didn't see that one. I saw the teacher one, but
So they had a panning, like a side-on panning shot of the crowd, and she was full on turned to the side,
yeah,
and like holding the sign up, and then the camera actually picked her up and zoomed in. It was a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, right. It's good to see it. Love the fans getting involved, and
The bloody Japanese culture is crazy,
isn't it?
I'd love to go over and experience it.
I'd love to go there.
That'd be one of the like a cool Grand Prix to actually go and experience.
Yep. Yeah, if I can get the missus on a plane for a fair stint, then might head over.
Well, if we get some sponsors on the pod, you never know. Anything could be possible. Anything could be possible.
Yeah.
So from the race itself, I enjoyed Carlos chasing down Norris and Leclerc when he went in for his last pit stop in the last dozen or so laps. Got those fresh hards and had some decent pace. That was interesting enough.
I mean, I didn't like him going past Norris, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. I loved it, on the other hand.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
And the George and Oscar little battle in the dying laps, that was a little spicy.
Again, I didn't like it because Oscar outbroke himself and locked it up.
I didn't love that either, to be honest. I was hoping he's going to hold on. But in terms of the race itself, though, there wasn't a whole lot of... It was more like, the strategy going on, how this is going to play out. There wasn't a whole lot of overtaking on track. But what are any other best moments from you?
Not anything major in particular. No, I think I'll stick to my Japanese crowd accessories.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Good shout. So on to probably one of my favourite segments of the pod, the room for improvement.
The room for improvement.
So do you want to lead us away with the room for improvement?
I'll lead us away because I feel like you've got a bit to say this week.
I've got a little bit to dive into, but
right. So my room for improvement, briefly mentioned earlier, was Hulkenberg got himself into P10 for the restart, bogged himself down, and dropped straight to 17th. And I feel like it was a massive missed opportunity. He ended up P11, and he was chasing Tsunoda down pretty quick, I'm pretty sure, at the end. So if he had got that restart on point, you'd think that 10th position could have, likely been his. So I think that's a missed opportunity there for Hulkie and for the Haas team.
Well, yeah, especially when the rival is the team that's finishing in 10th and get that point. So it's, it could have gone the other way. Keep a point off RB and a point in the kitty.
Yep.
So, they did miss out big time there.
He still wouldn't catch Ollie Behrman, who's in 12th position on 6 points after one race.
You love to see it.
First ever.
Love to see it. All right, so for myself.
Yeah, let's hear it. Get the popcorn, lads.
I've got a bit to go over, but just a few honourable mentions before I get to where I'm sure everyone knows where I'm heading. And
start easy.
Steak.
Yep.
Better pit stops, but still shit.
Yep.
Like, you don't celebrate a 5 second pit stop. That's not good. That's still terrible. But when you compare it to the shit they've dished up in the start of the season, yeah.
52 and 25 and whatever else.
5 seconds is better, but still, you've got to improve. You've got to get that to at least the 3 second mark. Alpine.
Who? Did they race?
They should fold.
I thought they sat out this weekend to give Sargent a chance.
What a fall from grace. Like, they were genuinely scoring points, at one point pushing like for that probably third third team overall. Like, they were really competitive. They were
Yep.
pushing McLaren, and look where McLaren are now and where Alpine. Like, Alpine have just fallen off a cliff.
The only thing I'm holding on to with Alpine is, I guess, the hope as such that they do a McLaren of last year and just bring a few upgrades and switch it around. Actually, speaking of upgrades, I forgot to mention earlier, Alonso was, like, Aston had brought a new upgrade package. Alonso was still running the old package, I'm pretty sure, and Stroll was bringing the new one in, so that might have been a difference in quali. But then Stroll seemed a bit more on it in the race, but yeah, just couldn't bring it.
Just back to Alpine before I jump off them. Considering how many contracts are up for grabs next year, how many seats are up for grabs,
Yep.
they could potentially lose one or two of their drivers. They've got two good drivers there, and they could abandon ship if they get a decent offer.
Yeah.
If they keep performing like this, so they really need to step it up.
Yeah, if this domino effect that you've been mentioning with the Sainz disruption and Hamilton and all that, if could open up the grid massively.
My last room for improvement before I go in, Ricciardo
Yeah.
only really had track time in FP3 and qualified all right, so he did all right with his time on the track. But that incident just builds the pressure, and with the drivers that are in line, he needs to improve, or else he could be in some serious strife.
Yeah. Is it that time? Is it that time of the pod?
I think it's that time of the pod.
All right. If anyone's got a kid, tune out now.
I'll try and keep it G-rated, but no, I might get a little bit fired up here.
Fuck off.
Logan fucking Sargent.
Yep.
Mate. Honestly, it was a roller coaster.
Yep.
FP1, like, everyone was sort of having a little bit of a laugh, like, oh, the pressure's on Sargent, watch him put it in the wall, like, in quality, like, in practice session, he's going to feel the pressure, right? Like, just having a little bit of a laugh, and then he goes and does it.
Yep.
And the crash itself it seemed like he could have come out of it and not kept his foot in and probably recovered the vehicle, maybe, I don't know, but it seemed like he just sort of just threw it into the wall, and it could have been prevented. But anyway, we move on from that. We get to quali.
Yep.
He qualifies. He doesn't write the car off. And I'm like, okay.
Not a bad effort for Logue.
That's bearable. We get to the race, and he's actually going all right. And at one point, I think he was sitting maybe 11th or 12th.
Yeah, it's either 11th or 12th.
And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to note that down for the pod because I'm actually going to give him some props.
Yep.
They had an average pit stop, but then before you know it, he's out there by himself and he just fucking puts it into the gravel trap.
Big cloud of dust.
What are you doing? Fuck me. Like, you don't see any other driver out there making unforced errors to that magnitude, and he's at the back of the pack already, or near enough. I think the wheelie bin Alpines were behind him.
The wheelie bins.
And then the only positive thing that come from that is he didn't DNF. He got it out of the gravel trap and continued.
Yep.
How fucking embarrassing. Oh, man. So then I went from being like, oh, yeah, he's actually going all right. Like, he's holding his own to, fuck me, Sergeant, you've done it again.
Yep. I've got an alternative theory for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Just to get you going.
Hit me.
So, Sargent is this intelligent, right? You ready? FP1, he's gone, Albon, we're running only 2 chassis. I'm driving your repaired one. I'm going to bin this, puts it into the wall, hits it. F1, these drivers, mate, they're talented. Hits it perfectly on the point of the car, which is the strongest point, into the wall, bounces off. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, red flag, session's done. Albon, you're not getting in my car this weekend, are you? You're not getting in this one. You're not getting in this one. You watch me.
He's played the reverse card
You
on
watch
him.
me whip. You watch me nay-nay. So he's binned it, right? Strategically, and then gets into the race, and he's doing all right. But he doesn't want that whipped away from me again, does he? Albon's crashed out. So he's gone, shit, Now what am I going to do? I've got to keep this to myself again. So then he runs off into the gravel, gets her all a bit dirty. Oh, no. Yeah, don't take this one again.
He might have even been concerned that they might do a pit stop and driver change mid-race.
Yes, that's the other one.
Maybe that's what he was thinking.
Yep.
But if Albon can't even come back from this far behind.
Exactly. There was actually jokes that when he Albon crashed and there was the red flag about Logan not moving an inch from his seat in case Albon jumped in it.
Oh, man. Could you imagine that?
Yeah, they're just like running at the car like old Le Mans. Just trying to race each other by foot to who gets the seat.
Oh, that poor bastard. Anyway, Sergeant, just to wrap things up, do better.
Yeah, look.
I don't want to mention you come the Chinese race review. Chinese Grand Prix, I don't want to mention you, okay? So just
why don't you put him in the points or something then?
Oh, I don't even want to talk about it. I want to pretend like I want him to have a race where, I didn't even notice. If you can do that, I'll be happy.
Yep.
So stay tuned. Right. Let's just jump into an overall race rating. Get into the number side of things. See how we're tracking now. The comp's going between us, Freezer. So we're just race rating straight off the bat. I've gone a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Yourself?
7.
7?
Out of 10.
I had a 7, but I dropped it down to a 6.5.
Did
so
you?
it was a bit like, nah.
Nasty.
So our predictions from last pod. So I had, what did I have? I had Verstappen, Leclerc and Sainz as my 1, 2, 3. And obviously Perez finished second, so I scored 2 points from that. And my left of field was Albon to score Williams' first points of 2024. Turned out to be a dog shit call. So no points from that.
Look, we put that up on the poll. It was a 50-50 split, whether that was left of field enough. But
thank God it didn't score, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that argument because it was a shit call anyway.
So
okay, so jumping on to mine. My podium predictions, I had first for Max Verstappen, second for Leclerc, third for Norris. So obviously I got Verstappen correct, Perez in second, so that's incorrect, and Sainz in third, so that's also incorrect. My left of field, very close. A little bit frustrated this weekend. I had Tsunoda 9th, and I started with having him 10th, and then thought, it's probably not left of field enough. People might complain. I'll go 9th.
Missed out.
Me dead, mate.
So what's the updated score then?
So with my 1 point, I'm on a grand total. You ready for it? Hard maths. 1 plus a previous 1 equals 2 big points.
You're on fire, mate. You're on fire. I'm sitting on 5 total, so I've got a little nice healthy lead. A few races in.
Ooh.
And you were talking about you wanted to change up our predictions to a 1 to 5.
Yeah, I think it's getting a little bit rinse and repeat with the Red Bulls and even Ferraris. So
yeah, spice her up.
I think for our next future predictions, we might do a 1 to 5 if you can.
Sounds good.
Even chuck in a poll prediction as well.
Yeah, let's do it. Right, so I'll quickly run through my predictions, which are pretty boring, to be honest. I've gone safe, trying to bank that lead and maybe extend it.
Righto.
So pole Verstappen, surprise, surprise. Maybe we could look at in the future having a clause to exclude Verstappen and maybe the red. Nah, anyway.
No, that's where you take the punt, isn't it? Do you go with the so-called safe option, or do you go for...
I'd happily lock Verstappen in for pole for the rest of the season for every single race.
Do it then, see what happens.
So I've really gone outside the square here and gone the exact same 1 to 5 for the race and the sprint.
How original.
Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Leclerc.
Yeah, okay.
Pushed your boy up there in 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing too much more to add to that. So we'll see how that one pans out.
Right.
What have you got for us, Freezer?
Well, I'm not quite as boring as you, so I'm going to start with the sprint.
Have you got Verstappen not finishing first or pole?
I've got, for pole, Charles Leclerc.
Oh! You reckon he's going to refine his glory days.
Yep, his poles. So, no, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, for first in sprint race finish, Verstappen, second Leclerc, third Norris, fourth Perez, fifth Sainz.
Ooh.
And for the race, I've gone Verstappen on pole.
Right.
Verstappen first.
Wow.
Perez second.
Wow.
Leclerc third.
Okay.
Sainz fourth. Norris fifth.
Not bad. Not bad.
So my top 5 drivers, it's the same 5 drivers.
Just switcheroo.
But my kind of thought process with the sprint was they haven't raced at China since 2019. So there's only a handful of drivers that have raced there in the current lineups and in the teams that they're currently in. So I've given a bit of a precedence there to a few of those drivers. And from what I read, because I can't really remember China that well, it's mostly medium to low speed corners, and there's 2 quite long straights. So a bit of a mixture of, a Ferrari that's good around low speed corners, as well as, still pretty nippy on the straights. Obviously nothing can really compare to the Red Bulls, so I was kind of thinking that for sprint quali, someone like Leclerc might be a bit onto it straight away. He seems to like those kind of tighter circuits, and he might be firing, because it seems like it takes Verstappen a bit longer to get into it, whether that's just him taking it easy and then working his way up, or whether he's straight on it. But
John, my thought process.
Hit me.
Red Bull quick. Ferrari a little less quick. Norris talent.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll see how she pans out.
Okay.
Left a field call for China. Straight off the bat. Stake to embarrass Guan Yu Zhou at his home race. So left a little bit broad, but just to make a dead set mockery of him.
In terms of me interpreting that comment as in like a 52-second pit stop type.
Something like that, or the car shits it, or the wheel nut decides to leave the race again.
The building.
Head down the pit lane by itself, or something stupid like that to happen at his home race to make him look like a right twat.
Okay. I don't mind it.
What have you got?
I think it's time for a spicy race. So I've gone, you got a little smirk there, but it's probably not as spicy as what you're thinking. But anyway, I've gone for 3 safety cars.
I did just have a vision of Perez taking out Verstappen at the first quarter, and it put a smile on my face.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm not quite. I mean, that could be the cause of one of the safety cars.
3 safety cars, I like that.
3 safeties. And
that's good.
That includes VSC.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
No, I rate that. Right, so I think that brings us to the end of another episode of the Best of the Rest podcast. Chuck us a 5-star rating if you don't mind. Leave us any comments, feedback, anything that you think we might do better in the future. We appreciate it. And we appreciate you listening.
We certainly do.
See ya.
Cheers.
Peace.
Look at this. This is not a dog. This is a piece of shit.